there in downtown Fort Worth today. My friend Jordan called me up and we decided to come out and shoot some. Found a very scary place. I'll be videoing the whole thing just in case something bad happens to us. I've been locked in the studio for what seems like months, and it's been ridiculously hot. It's still hot today. For some reason we thought it was going to be nice, but I guess 90 is still much better than 100. I just wanted to get out and put my camera in front of some different things that I'm not used to capturing. I thought I would tell you a really embarrassing musical story, because I think we can all relate to really embarrassing, humiliating stories. Back when I finished college, early 2000s, I knew I wanted to be a recording engineer. I was working at a studio, and then I got a job freelancing at this really nice studio in Dallas. Multiple rooms. Before I got there, some big name artists had come through. At the time that I was there, not so much. I think perhaps Justin Timberlake had done something. You know, I worked my way into this role as the third engineer in a studio that had 2 rooms. So I'd get the freelance call whenever something came up, or the place was booked, or whatever. Just so you know, at this point, I am a Digi-001 Pro Tools user, right? I don't know anything about consoles or anything. And there was a console in this space. It was an old API console, and I learned later that it was just a hodgepodge. It was put together by somebody, and it was not put together well, and eventually it was parted out. It was in very bad shape. I get a call one day to show up to this recording session, and there's this famous producer, and I didn't know who he was. I got the sense that something was big, and I go home that night and I Google him, which Google wasn't around back in 2004 or 5, and come to find out this person, who I'm scared to mention this because Google will tell you who it is, and I think there is the off chance that he follows people that watch my videos. And he was super nice, but I was in there green as could be, and everything that could have possibly gone wrong in that session went wrong. He asked for just a few things, a few mic channels pulled up, and a mic channel didn't work. And there's a good chance it was user error because I was not taught how to do anything. They just said, go do it, and here's 25 bucks an hour. Microphones had buzzes. It was just all kinds of little nuances to the room that I had no clue about. And it was an absolute disaster. But I pressed on. And I also knew at this time that I didn't need to be up in the producer's business. Like, as a hired engineer, I should have kept my distance, but I knew pretty quickly that this guy was special. And in fact, I asked him, like, oh, what'd you do last night? And he goes, I went and hung out with the Play of the Colds. I said, what? The Play of the Colds? And he goes, Coldplay, John. They were at American Airlines Center, and he went and hung out with Coldplay. We ordered lunch and all this stuff, and they asked me if I wanted something, and I got my lunch, and I plopped down right next to him at lunch, which was a terrible move. Don't do that if you are a young engineer or producer. But at the same time, he got a package in the mail, and it was a score for one of his other productions. And I remember him sitting there eating a sandwich and just looking over the score, and he was going, oh, this isn't right. And I'm going, how do you know? He goes, well, I just know because I'm looking at the notes. I'm like, yeah, but you know, how do you know? He goes, I just know. And right there, I knew that I had a lot to learn. And then, oh gosh, everything went wrong again the next day. And finally, he pulled me aside and he said, John, you're working really hard and I appreciate it, but I just can't justify spending $1,000 a day in this studio. And part of me died inside. And that story, the reason I tell that story is because, one, we've all got them. And you have to have those kind of stories where you're like, that was a miserable experience. I either got to get out of this completely, or I've got to figure out how to get better. I had to learn how to use that stupid console even though it was a piece of junk. I had to learn how to write orchestral music and start to understand the basics of that. It was an absolute failure of a day. I hate it. Maybe one day I'll be able to share this conversation and perhaps he'll remember. But if you've got those kind of moments, learn from them. And that's just me wanting to share a story with you. Maybe we'll do story time on occasion. That's the best I've got for this week. And I'll be back next week with something else. And at some point I got to figure out what I'm going to do more than a week in advance. But I'm not there yet. So we'll just keep making it up as we go.